That's really cool. All right, so I know both of you have had very interesting careers and very different kinds of jobs as far as what the school trains for, or what your own artistic background is. Can you talk a little bit? I want both of y'all to answer this question. Can you talk a little bit about sometimes the job that it's not your passion project is the one that pays
I'd
better?
like to talk about that. Yes, I try to people come into the school, and I understand that they want to be the penciler or the inker. They don't want to be a letterer. I understand that.
Right.
But you have to be flexible because at first, they only want to do Spider-Man.
Yes.
And I'm trying to get them to do, I used to do Archie, but now I try to get them to do a comic page.
Right.
Comic pages now go on to online. A lot of the page. There's a strip that's being run now about a girl and her unicorn, and it started online, and she's in newspapers now. So they're picking stuff up from there.
Right.
And I said, you got to be flexible.
Right.
You're not that dream job isn't going to be the first one.
Right.
It could be lettering. And some people catch on to that. And I said, and Archie doesn't get a lot of people.
Right.
And every once in a while, one guy will say, that's a good idea. And I can't remember who it was, but one guy did say, it's a good idea. And I think he's working at Archie now and doing all kinds of stuff.
No kidding. Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that. Looks like we're here. What was that like? Fernando, I guess you go first on this one.
What's that?
You had High as an instructor, did you?
Oh boy, I sure did.
Was it tough?
Oh yeah, he was relentless. He was like Burgess Meredith in Rocky.
Wow, that's Mickey for
Mickey.
You guys
Yeah.
know.
But
You gotta say penguin.
Yeah, the penguin on the Batman, the original Batman.
That's what we gotta go for Burgess. The penguin. Poor Burgess.
Pop culture icon, by the way.
High's class was great. I had him in my third year,
Okay.
my third and last year, and he taught story adaptation then.
Okay.
And his class was like the most diverse class that we had because he had worked all over the place.
Right.
He gave us all these different types of projects to do. So
Yeah.
he gave us like Tom and Jerry. He gave us, I remember this murder mystery story he gave us to do. And he actually gave us an Archie project to do. And that was the one that got me my career.
Now, was that your first time doing Archie? Like since you had been at the school?
Probably. I think that was, yeah, I mean, I drew pictures of Archie as a kid
Right.
because I was a fan.
Yeah.
And I used to read the comics. But I think that was the first time.
So High's assignment was your first time doing Archie?
Yeah, yeah. And, back then, it was a lot like it is today. Like, the majority of the kids that came to school, they want to draw Batman.
Yeah.
So they get the Archie assignment and they say, we don't want to do that. And they're, they kind of blow it off. But I was
They sure do.
oh.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is a job like any other.
Right.
If Archie's hiring and they're paying money, I'll try for it. So I gave it a shot. And then I tried to destroy all my dreams. But it worked out in spite of it.
So he was very encouraging when he saw your work?
Well, he always liked to tell it to you like it was.
Right.
He was very honest. So he gives me the Archie story.
Yes.
And I'm sitting down, I'm drawing my heart out. I say, I want to do a good job. Not only, to get the Archie job,
Right.
but I was like a father to me. And I didn't want to let him down.
Right.
So the due date comes, right?
Yes.
And I go into class, and he always had you come up to his desk and hand in your work that way. So this is it.
Yes.
These were the pages. I expected like a Valentine's Day card. So I go up to him and he looks at it and he gives me the Eisman sigh. And he says, "Can I see you out in the hall?"
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking, these pages must be so good. He doesn't want to hug me in front of.
Right.
He
Yeah.
wants to take me inside.
Special
So-
moment here.
So I follow him out, and he looks at him and he looks at me and he said, "I don't know how to tell you this, but I think you have a better shot of being struck by lightning than of making it in this business." Now, that wasn't what I was expecting. So I was a little taken aback. But then, what he does is he says, "Come here."
Yeah.
And he takes me to the faculty room.
Right.
And he has Archie pages that he had done.
Okay.
And he pulls them out and he worked at these layers where he draws the page, puts tracing paper over it, tweaks the character, and he sat down, he showed me how he drew these characters.
Right.
And I'm taking note, and I'm trying my best to see what he's doing, but the tears in my eyes.
Your nose should be out to here.
I know the memory isn't what it once was. It's for God's sake.
But you shouldn't lie.
This is historical fact. So he showed me how to draw these characters. So I take the assignment back, and I go home and I read the pages.
Oh, wow.
And I'm doing it in layers like he showed me. I'm tweaking these characters. So it's the next week, and I come back and I got my pages. So now I'm going up. And it's a longer walk to the desk this time,
Oh,
so I
yeah.
know what could lay ahead. And I show them to him, and I'm braced. I figure I'm going to have to do another go around on these pages.
Right.
And he looks at them, and this time he goes, "Hey, these are pretty good. You should show them to Archie when they come to the school."
Oh, wow.
Oh, finally. After 3 years, he gives me a pretty good.
You had A's in the book. You've seen them.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sticking to the high points of the
Oh,
story.
the high points.
We're taking them
How
every
come
day.
all the high points are high points?
That's the best part.
Oh, all right.
So, Archie, and actually in those days, I remember my third year class, we went to Marvel.
Right.
We went to DC.
Nice.
And I remember it was getting late in the year. And I said to Mike Chen, Mike was teaching us the business of cartoon art,
Yes.
which was one of the best classes that I took here. And
Yeah.
Mike, hands down, was one of the best instructors that I had here at the school. And I said to Mike, "When's Archie coming?" And Mike says, "They're not."
No.
And the reasoning was that because nobody ever had anything to show them, they
Right.
they didn't want to bother them.
Yeah, they wouldn't waste their time.
So I said, "I got stuff."
Yeah.
So Mike actually invited Archie just because I spoke up.
Huh.
So they came out, and Victor Gorelick, who is still executive editor and co-president of the school, and he came out with Dan DiCarlo,
Yeah.
who drew Archie for like 50 years.
Oh, yeah.
And Victor and Dan looked at my pages I showed high,
Uh-huh.
and they said, "Hey, these are pretty good." So they hired me, and
Wow.
a week, later I graduated and started my first freelance story for Archie.
Wow.
I can tell them the rest of the story.
What's the rest of the story?
I had 2 children that I had to feed,
Yes.
and Archie was a big market for me.
Uh-huh.
And I came up with my latest stuff, and they said, we got a kid that'll work for half of this. I said, you're kidding. Who would do a thing like that?
Right.
They said, this Mexican we got. See 2 daughters crying because they had no food. That's more than I could bear.
Right.
I thought of strangling them the next time I saw them. I relented. I figured I'll get out of work.
Yes.
Plus, he didn't recognize me.
Yeah.
He was looking for a guy with a sombrero. But you know, years later,
Yes.
after I had started teaching here and I was teaching with Hyde,
Right.
we had a schedule where Hyde taught this one group. It was a 1B that year in the morning,
Right.
and I would get that group in the afternoon.
Right.
So I go into the class that afternoon after lunch, after Hyde, and warm them up in the morning.
Yeah.
And there's this girl, and she's crying. No, this is the evidence. So I said to her, "What's wrong?" And she says, "Hi, Heisman told me I have a better chance of being struck by lightning than of making it in this school."
Ouch.
And I said, "That's great." She didn't see it. And I, because Hyde to this day denies he ever says that to me. He says that isn't a line I would use. And I said, "Well, what about that girl?" And then he'll relent. And he'll say, "Well, I would have said it to her, but I wouldn't have said it to you."
To you, I would have said you have more chance of getting hit by a bull.
Well,
This is how he used to talk in class,
yes.
but he just figured I didn't understand English. Just let fly.
Well, you know, encouragement comes in many different forms. That's fair to say. Hi, can we talk about just as now an instructor, and you know, also you're part of the artistic world, but you now have a hand in shaping, you know, kind of the future of, you know, with the students. What kind of things do you look to, I guess, impart on students? Like things that are like, hey, look, you know, these are some of the challenges you're going to face, but like if you don't remember anything else, remember this. Like, what are some of those things?
I think drawing is going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at newspaper comics,
Yeah.
drawing was a thing of the past.
Right.
And this business has a way of evoluting and going up and down.
Right.
And I think at one point, there's going to be a young editor saying, this stuff doesn't make sense. I mean, I can read the balloons, but the drawings, there must be a way of getting funny stuff. Like maybe a guy out there can draw a thing called Calvin and Hobbes,
Right.
where the drawing is great and the gags are great.
Right.
And that guy he'll get work.
Right.
But after 10 years, he's going to burn out because nobody else is following him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to get back to that point where somebody's going to pick up a really well-drawn strip.
I mean, I see it now. Like I'll do like some of the non-comic book work that I'll do,
Yeah.
if I'm working for an ad agency,
Yeah.
or even a corporate company, they have art departments, but there aren't any artists on these art departments. They're computer guys.
Right.
You know, they know Photoshop and,
Yeah.
and, you know, they can do graphics,
Yeah.
but they don't know how to pick up a pencil and draw an image or an idea or a storyboard.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes I'll get these jobs where I go in for a few days and I work for these guys.
Yeah.
And they see me like draw something and it's like I got superpowers, you know?
Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I think more and more they're gonna realize, yeah, we do need artists.
Right.
So I think in the future, the guy who can work the computer as well as draw,
Right.
he's the one who's gonna have it made.
Yeah. Huh. That's key. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Someone recently, I know nothing about the computer,
Right.
but someone recently told me that he worked on a program, one of these programs. He said he was trying to do something because he's an artist and he knows how to draw.
Right.
And the computer kept pushing back at him, which I don't understand. He said, I couldn't get it to work for me. It kept forcing me to work for it. So it sounds like it's a Android of some sort.
Right.
And, no, but he was serious. He says,
Yeah.
I have to develop this stuff in pencil.
Yeah.
And then go on. If I do anything with it, it's forcing me into this program.
Right.
So, for whatever it is. That's the other thing about what's different about school at the beginning
Right.
and now.
Yeah.
Is at the beginning, people sat there with a sketch pad, made notes,
Yeah.
and everything was done that way.
Uh-huh.
Today, they're hiding behind a computer, and I don't know what they're looking at,
Right.
but there's a lot of laughing going on on a serious day.
Yeah.
So it's probably the worst thing that, maybe the best thing, but also the worst thing that's happened.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I mean, we know some artists that are really, they can use it as a tool, and I think we've all kind of seen there are those that kind of use it as a crutch. You know, and
Well, that's the problem.
yeah. But I think good art is always gonna.
Yeah, someone
you
that knows how to draw will eventually,
Yeah.
they're gonna look at it and say, this is much different.
Yeah.
You
Al
still need the
Jaffe, who
skill.
does that,
Yeah.
does the fold-in on Mad Magazine.
Right.
Al Jaffe, he's 92.
Wow.
He still does that stuff by hand.
Wow.
And his editors are somewhere around 28. And when he walks in, they said, what program do you use? And he says, these two hands. And they say, unbelievable. Really? Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
That's why I tell everybody, you know, try to work with paper.
Right.
Generate paper.
Yeah.
Because on Antique Roadshow, 10 years from today,
Uh-huh.
someone's going to look at a page where the lettering is on the page with the drawing,
Yeah.
and they're going to say, this was done with pen and ink. And the guy's going to say, what do you mean by ink? And the guy's going to say, this page, which once was sold for $17.50, is worth $17,500. Oh,
All right.
my God, I can't believe it.
Wow. Only 10 more years, we'll get there. One thing I did want to ask is, one thing that I remember in your class was, you know, the story fundamentals are kind of what I've seen, that the fundamentals don't change. The way you apply them, you know, whatever the medium is, whatever, you know, whether it's action or, you know, whatever the genre is, if it's a gag, the way you apply it is a little bit different, but the fundamentals are the same across the board. One thing you taught us was, you know, you do your layouts, you draw it, you know, you get your thumbnails or your roughs, and boom, okay, so now you got it. You know, you've trial and errored it, you know, then draw it again, you know, and you always say, like, draw it, you know, just change it a little bit more, like, draw it one more time and see what comes out. Where'd you get that from?
That's the business of the tracing paper.
Right.
I got that when I was in high school from a guy that did Bringing Up Father,
Yeah.
George McManus,
Right.
at Columbia University at a lecture. where he had a film showing how he drew the page.
Right.
And he was on the front page of the New York American then for years. And he would do it on the tracing paper and flop it. And he would be able to edit his own material.
Huh.
And I picked it up at that point.
Wow.
And it worked for me.
Yeah.
I never had to erase. I would draw in blue pencil, flop it, then go over it with a red marker.
Right.
Put it on a white box and ink it.
Wow.
I never had to erase because you're correcting your own work.
Yeah, yeah. So that flop helps you balance it all out.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
see things that you don't see head on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you got to work on Bringing Up Father, right?
Yeah.
What was that? So what was that like then? You know, after you saw that at an early age, and obviously like there was an influence there that carried you through, you know, that you still use, and then having the opportunity to actually work on something that, you know.
On which one are you talking?
Bringing Up Father.
Oh, I ghosted it for a guy that took it over from George McManus after he died.
Right, right.
But I ghosted it until he got sick, and he was signing it for a while, and then I signed his name to it. And,
Gracious.
yeah, well, that's the name of the game. Most of the strips, early strips that were successful, always had a ghost.
Right.
The guys were never doing it.
Uh-huh.
Terry Drake was written by someone, penciled by Jerry Robinson, who did Batman.
Yeah.
And penciled by Hy Eisman and inked by Jerry Robinson, and signed by Alfred Andrioli,
Wow.
who collected the checks.
Interesting.
That was the industry.
Right. Well, I mean, we see that now to some degree, where some artists will hire like a background guy.
Yeah.
You know, they'll do the layouts. Now, when you were coming up, were they giving you layouts, or were they just giving you, hey, do this?
Script.
This is the script, and you do the.
Most of them were typed scripts.
Uh-huh.
And eventually, when I went for Archie, he had a good storyboard guy. What's his name?
Gladder.
Gladder,
George Gladder.
Yeah.
Created Sabrina, the Teenage Witch.
Wow. How about that?
He was great. Writer, succinct balloons,
Yeah.
action. He would give you an idea of what he wanted to see. It was good. Very few people like that.
All right, so I have like one or two more questions for you guys that I want to answer, but then I want to open it up to you guys. So prepare yourselves. Fernando, real quick. So I just want to kind of talk about kind of your influence just personally. I know a lot of people come into the school with an ambition to get this job, whatever this job is for a lot of people. You know, some people just want to do Spider-Man, some people just want to do Batman, whatever. You know, it's like your dream is your dream. That's cool. I get that. You kind of came in with like, I want to get a job.
Yeah.
Right. I guess what was your influence? I guess coming up, you know, I mean, you're from Jersey, right? You're from this area, not far from this area.
Yep.
What was your ambition as an artist coming into the school, knowing you wanted to just be a professional? You're just kind of willing to go with whatever paid.
Yeah, well, yeah, whatever paid.
Right.
I mean, I had the you know, you have the goals like any other fan, you know,
Right.
yeah, it'd be great to draw Batman or
Right.
Spider-Man or those things.
Right.
But you always know there aren't a whole lot of Batman jobs and Spider-Man jobs, you know.
Yeah.
That's too tiny of a target to shoot for.
Right.
So you broaden that target by saying, you know, I want to work in comics, I want to work in art, you know, I'll work in anything that'll have me pick up a pencil.
Yeah.
You know, so that's how I broaden things, and that's why I took the Archie assignment seriously and
Right.
let me be a contender for that project, that I was able to draw in any sort of style.
So what was it, I guess, growing up, or just, you know, in your past that influenced you to kind of be more focused on more just being a professional, you know, through this whole process?
Well, probably all the different comics that I read,
Right.
because I also didn't just read Spider-Man. You know, I read Archie, I read Richie Rich and Casper,
Yeah.
G.I. Joe,
Yeah.
and Batman, and you know, science fiction comics. You know,
Right.
all of those fed into me, and I guess that led me to be a little bit more versatile, that I could do different things and not just one thing.
Okay, so it's more like your appetite for like what you liked was really
Yeah,
broad.
'cause I used to, I hunt down all this stuff too,
Right.
bookstores, comics, shops and things.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's interesting. I know. I mean, as I talk to students all the time, and I know just with my own class, like everybody has the thing that they want to do, but now like once you're out of school, and you got to pay bills. It's like, look, I need to pay bills. Yes, I'll draw it. Yeah, whatever.
That diversity.
Yeah.
is really, the more diverse you are,
Uh-huh.
the more employable you become.
Right.
So the worst thing in the world is to go through this school and just be a one-trick pony.
Right.
No matter how good that pony is.
Yeah.
To only be able to do that, you're really selling yourself short.
Awesome. All right. So, hi. With that information, though, and you're here from the origin. Is that kind of one of the goals of the school? And I kind of already know the answer, but I'd just like to hear your take on it. Making students just very versatile and very highly employable, marketable once they
It was
come
Joe's
out.
idea, that's why he did all the, anything in the realm of cartooning.
Right.
Lettering, at that time, we still had the photostat machine,
Right.
we even taught that.
Yeah.
And we tried to do everything that a cartoonist could do.
Right.
Package design, covers design, everything. And that was his intent. That's why we're still trying to do the hand lettering.
Yeah.
Hand lettering, if 4 or 5 people know computer lettering,
Right.
and they all compete for a job, and one guy says, I can hand letter, it's who's going to get the job?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's an entry level. It still is an entry level job. There's a guy that someone found online that went into DC as a letterer, and he's now writing for him. And he happens to mention that he took I. Eisman's lettering class. He wasn't happy at the time,
Right.
but he said that he ended up working for DC and now is writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Archie still uses hand letterers.
Wow. Now, I know there's always that debate. Is hand lettering going to be a lost art? Is inking going to be a lost art? Do you think that it's fading out because there are not that many good people that are good at it, or is the skill not
Publishers
appreciated
do
anymore?
what's cheapest for them.
Right. Okay.
They go to computer lettering
Right.
because it's cheaper.
Right.
And I'm surprised that Archie still uses hand lettering.
You can't argue with the efficiency of the computer.
Right.
But, they still like the artistry of it.
Yeah.
They still like seeing that on the pages.
Yeah, there's energy in the letter thing. All the letters aren't, every E isn't exactly the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Archie may have the most loyal comic book fans in comics.
God bless them.
Okay, awesome. One thing to know. I told you, I told you earlier today that there's a ton of content about you online, which is really interesting. One thing I saw, I didn't know this. I'll have to show you how I did that so you can see for yourself.
He's talking about my blog, isaytome.com.
That isn't what you're talking about, right?
I'm actually talking about the pictures, but it's not for. I'm kidding.
You're sending him into a panic. He doesn't know how these evil boxes work.
No, so there was a thing that said you first introduced Bluto to the strips in comic. You were the first artist to.
No. They use Brutus.
Brutus.
In the Popeye, in the page, in the
Right.
Sunday page.
Right.
I gave him a twin brother named Bluto in one of the gags.
Right.
I didn't know I was making history.
Yeah.
It was just a good gag, and I was able to draw Brutus and Bluto. They look the same, and I used them to give Popeye a hard time.
Yes.
And suddenly it became a piece of history.
It
You know,
did.
I didn't know it was online too.
Yeah.
But I've gotten fan mail saying you've given he gave Brutus a twin brother.
Right.
So that's it.
Yeah, I had, I was a big fan of Popeye coming up, and I remember there was a distinction. Like sometimes there was a guy named Brutus there, and then there was a guy named Bluto.
Bluto was the movie Popeye. There was something about the copyright.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
King Features used Brutus.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when what's his name? Bobby London.
Mhm.
Bobby London used the two of them.
Aha. I did not know that, but thank you, Hi, for that. I
Yeah.
appreciate it as a fan.
Glad I was able to clear that.
Yeah, me too. Okay, guys, please ask them something.
You all want to go home, right?
They do. They got art to do. Art. Anybody? All right.
Lloyd,
Anthony.
there was a story similar to the two that you told about getting struck by lightning, relative to a fellow that you were in the Army with, Hi.
Oh,
Yeah, there was an army.
your Army buddy.
Your army buddy.
Oh, everybody knows that.
Do they know that?
Everybody knows that.
I don't know.
No, I don't think they know the story, huh?
Oh,
Another dream you crushed. Special.
this goes back to WWII, the biggie.
The big one.
Yes. I was in.
Do they know what
I
that
was
is?
being
by the
trained
way?
as a.
That's World War II,
World War II.
guys.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, World War II.
I was being trained as a killer at Camp Landing, Florida, and the war ended while I was in basic training, and they shipped me to Camp Pickett, and a lot of people were being shipped to Camp Pickett, which was a replacement camp for replacing combat soldiers in Europe, and I was assigned to a hospital unit, and there was a Camp Pickett newspaper. And I had time, so I started drawing a comic strip for the Camp Pickett newspaper. And I would bring it down to Camp Pickett newspaper office, and there was another guy in the finance department that came in with a panel cartoon that he was getting published also. He was a year older than I, and he was being discharged at the time. And the newspaper, obviously the camp was going to be closed down, the newspaper was going to close down, and they had a photo op where they had this other cartoonist and I drawing each other, caricaturing each other. And of course, when we met at the office, I would always make a comment about his drawing. I would say things like, you have more of a chance of getting hit by lightning than ever getting a job in this industry. It wasn't words to that effect, but I would criticize his drawing. When you're 18, you can do that. And he would laugh. And anyway, there's this photo op, and we're doing this thing, and he's discharged, and I now am alone, and the paper is going to close down. I go down to say goodbye. The photographer has all these outtakes. So I said, can I have them? And I took them. And years later, I'm looking through, I had a shoebox, and I had a lot of stuff there. And I went to put it in a larger box. You know, you're going to always put these things in albums. So I'm going to do it later. And I pulled that thing up and turned it over, and there was this picture of me drawing this other guy. And I said to myself, I wonder whatever happened to old Hef. And then I realized I've been watching this guy on TV. And this is Hef, the guy that I told will never make it as a cartoonist. Well, I wrote to him on the 50th anniversary of our discharge, and I said, every fighting outfit has a reunion, and I'll find the two WACs that worked at the, you know what WACs are, by the way, the Women Army Corps. I'll find those two ladies that worked at the newspaper, and we'll have a reunion in Blackstone, Virginia, where Camp Pickett was. And he wrote back and said, Dear Hi, I never was too keen on the Army, and And I'm glad that one of us made it as a cartoonist. As a matter of fact, I'm glad it was you. Because I never would have had the life that I had. And he signed it Bev. So he got the last laugh. I always thought he was a Mexican. Anyway, that's it, right? We all can go home?
Anybody got any other questions? No, I don't think you can.